Now we're coming up to the nighttime supplements. That means before bed, okay? And again, we're going to have that glass of water, 8 to 10 ounces, clean water, no fluoride, no chlorine in it. And here we're going to add 1 teaspoon of magnesium powder, Calm, TME, Safer Medical. This is something I had to use last night, for example, okay? Because when the magnesium gets displaced in our systems, we tend to then have muscle cramping take place, muscle spasms take place. You don't want that to happen to your heart. Then you get to have a heart attack. So, stir it in. Now, there are some other forms of magnesium. You can take a calcium magnesium pill. I also use magnesium citrate, okay? But the main thing is make sure you get that magnesium into your system. It'll help the acid-alkaline balance. It is critical for the metabolism of your calcium and vitamin C. We suffer tremendous losses of the magnesium from the chlorofluoro compounds and from these heavy metals. So if you're going to get a good restful night, you've got to have the magnesium in you. That way your muscles can be calm.
Well, I wanted to ask, how does this magnesium powder differ from the calcium magnesium supplement we talked about earlier?
Okay, it's in a little bit of a different assimilable form. Okay, and it'll go into your system virtually immediately, and because of its construction, it has a real calming effect. The magnesium that we need during the day is to kind of give us a bit of an energy bump, okay? So that we can go out, so that we can do our exercise whether we're walking or running or just sitting having a conversation like we're doing right now, and my arms are going all over the place. I need magnesium in one form then for muscle activity. However, the magnesium powder at night, that form, is going to help you relax, okay? Now, it's not just physically, it's also mentally and emotionally. It's going to work in conjunction with these other elements that I have here, which includes 3 to 5 milligrams of lithium orotate. And by the way, this is also for children, okay? The lithium orotate, it's our modulating brain element.
Let me ask you one thing here, because we do say here on the slide that it's also for children. Isn't all this for children?
Every bit of it is for children. But a lot of time people will say, well, do I want to give this to my kids at night? I get asked that question, is it just for us adults or is it for the kids too?
I see.
Okay. And the dosages are the same, whether it's an adult or a child. This is not dependent upon body weight. Okay. And during the day, when we're getting hit with the barium, strontium, aluminum, what happens is the aluminum will displace, with the fluoride, it'll displace the lithium in our brains. When the lithium gets displaced, if you're a child, you then have autism. Things don't connect right. Memory is inhibited. Electrical activity becomes severely degraded. If you're an adult, we call it Alzheimer's, okay? And that's because the lithium has been kicked out. So, and now lithium can also act as a calming agent, okay? So when it works in combination with the magnesium powder, kind of chill you down. We want to get into the, during the day, we're in alpha, beta. At night, our brain waves, we want them to be in theta, delta, REM. And it's the combination of the correct magnesium powder with the lithium orotate that will put us into that calming place. It'll also make sure that the aluminum is going to be kicked out now by the addition of the lithium there. So we're going to have correct modulating brain function take place. And with this, we also want to include 3 to 5 milligrams of sublingual melatonin. That means under the tongue. Okay. Now the melatonin works again with the lithium, with the magnesium powder, to put us into that theta delta REM. Why is it important to be in theta delta REM when we're sleeping? Well, at night when we're in theta delta REM, that's when the janitors come out and go to work. So all of these things that we put into our systems during the day to get ready for these processes of elimination to take place, this is when it goes to work. Okay? And our body will actually do a check about every 90 minutes. It's going to see, do our bowels have to move? Do we have to get up and urinate? Okay? Because the janitors are lining stuff up to get it out of the system. We have to be in theta delta REM for that to take place. This is when healing occurs. This is when toxin elimination occurs. So the magnesium, the lithium, the melatonin, make sure we're physically correct and that our brainwave circuitry is correct for these processes to occur.
I also want to mention, I know that 5-HTP is mentioned
Yes.
somewhere. That is generally recommended at night as well for the same reason.
Absolutely, for the same reasons. Yes.
Okay.
And I do believe we have that up as some of the additional supplements to work with. Most of the people that I talk to that call me for recommendations, I do include in here the 5-THP.
Okay.
And I also would recommend 25 or more, sometimes 50 milligrams of an antihistamine. Now, you see, when we get hit with these things during the day, one of our immune system responses is, oh, we raise up the histamines, okay? And a lot of people know these as allergic reactions. For example, in the spring, you get hit with the pollens, and the histamines start to run wild. Now, histamines are a good thing. They're for our defense, okay? But they also will keep us awake. And it's real hard to get any sleep at all when your histamines are out there in the fight, which they've been put into during the day. So an antihistamine taken at bedtime will again help calm things down. It'll tell the histamines, okay, you've done your job during the day, now we got to have the nighttime janitors come in and do the work that you've been so good at setting up during the day for us to get out of the system.
So up to this point, correct me if I'm wrong, everything with the exception of the antihistamine is something that's already naturally in our body, but it's been displaced, correct?
Yes.
But the antihistamine, that is not something that is natural.
That's not something that we have. We do have some natural antihistamines, however, no, they're not. They're not part of our natural antihistamine
Okay.
system.
But your point is that your body is going to be better off getting the rest that it needs.
Yes.
Even if what we're putting in here is, I guess, some form of
Absolutely.
drug.
Well, you see, and now there are, for example, there are antihistamine aspects that are in the honey. Okay.
Okay.
You can do a little bit of vinegar on honey at night before you go to bed. You're going to have some antihistamine components that are in there.
Okay.
Okay. The honey will help put those histamines into a bit of a restful state. However, because of the nature and the strength, if you will, of the assault that's taking place on us, we got to add a little bit of a punch back to it, which means the addition of the manufactured antihistamine.
Okay.
Okay. Other supplementation in the evening, I would also recommend, and this is for correct bowel function and some other things that are necessary. 1 tablespoon of slippery elm powder. You want to mix this with a little water. It'll form kind of a paste. Add a little more water into it. It does form a bit of a gloopy gloppy mess. Drink it on down. Okay. Now, what the slippery elm powder does is it will take and bond with those toxic compounds that we've had come in onto us. It'll help bond with them, eliminate them out of the system. But what it also does is it acts to rehydrate the mucosal membranes, the linings of our intestinal tract. You see, because the chemtrails act as a desiccant. That means they dehydrate us, okay? We've got to add some hydration back on in. And one way to make sure that that gets correctly distributed into our system is to use the slippery elm powder. So not only will it bond with the toxins, but it'll also help rehydrate our mucosal membranes.
Okay.
Real important. Other recommendations, please, everyone, no fluoridated water, no genetically modified organisms. We've got to eat real food. And certainly soda pop or anything else that has high fructose corn syrup. And I want to speak about the high fructose corn syrup just for a moment here. See, the high fructose corn syrup comes from corn, which has now been genetically modified to include an insecticide. Okay? That insecticide has an aluminum compound into it. Okay? Acts as a desiccant. And also acts as a, defoilant. So, that's what you get with the high fructose corn syrup. So it's very prevalent in all the soda pop. It's going to be very prevalent in the GMOs. My God, when you go to the store and you look at things, it's hard to avoid it, okay? But whenever possible, please do so. And the best way to do that is eat organic at all times or whenever possible. It's not really possible to be 100% that way. I mean, we do have to live here on planet Earth, but try to eat organic and keep your protein intake high. I hear a lot out there these days that say, lower your protein intake, it's better for you. No, the human race, for the 150,000 years that we've been present here, we have that daily requirement for a high protein intake. But as I talked about earlier, you want to make sure you're deriving those proteins from organic sources only, otherwise you won't get the benefit of them. In fact, they'll be carrying toxins into you. So keep it organic, keep the protein intake high, and as I mentioned earlier, a vinegar, honey, and iodine combo, it is good anytime. It aids digestion, it aids metabolism, it is antimicrobial. It will act as a blood cleanser at all times, and it will also help chill you down a little bit when you look up in the sky and the anxiety thing goes off the charts and the anger comes up. Well, go in, pour yourself a drink. Only we're not going to have a martini this time. What we're going to have is going to be a vinegar, honey, and iodine. Okay, and try to chill out that way. Now, I want to talk briefly about the salt exchange bath. This was a bath that I designed, some 30 years ago, actually. And the barium, along with the aluminum and the strontium and the other heavy metals that are in the chemtrails, okay, it's very difficult to get them out, especially when they've become radiated or they're radiological, right? Which happens when these things are up in the atmosphere. So this salt exchange bath for chemical, radiological, and biological detoxification, number one, you want the bath to be hot. I would recommend around 104 degrees. That's not going to burn you or anything, but you have to be higher than the 98.6 degrees of our body so that you can have an exchange take place. It won't take place if you're cooler than the 98.6. Or if you're right at the 98.6, everything's going to be neutral. So you got to be warm, okay? And to that, you want to add 1/2 to 1 cup of vinegar, apple cider vinegar if available. Now this vinegar does not have to be with the mother, okay?
Okay.
This can be your apple cider vinegar without the mother, but you want to put in 1/2 to 1 cup. And what that's going to do is that's again going to set up a little bit of a differential between our blood, which is on the alkaline side. Most of our tissues have to be on the acid side, but we want to do the exchange. We want to help our blood. We want to help cleanse it. So you add in the vinegar, then you get in, when you've got that in, and you add 2 to 3 cups of baking soda. Arm & Hammer baking soda, please make sure it's aluminum free, okay? And what that does is it opens up what are called the sodium channels of membrane excitation.
Richard, I just want to ask, so is there some type of Arm & Hammer baking soda that has aluminum in it?
Yes, there are.
Okay. So we have to make sure.
Well, the Arm & Hammer is basically on the baking soda. It's pretty much aluminum free.
Okay.
But some of the other brands, they have aluminum in it.
Okay.
So Now you can get the baking powder. It'll say aluminum free right on the front of it. Okay, I recommend Arm and Hammer because, as far as I'm aware, there's no aluminum
Okay.
in that brand. Okay?
Okay.
So you add that up, it opens up the sodium channels of membrane excitation. You wait a minute, now you come in with the 2 to 3 cups of Epsom salts. Now this is magnesium sulfate. Kind of a magical thing happens at this point. The magnesium sulfate, remember the magnesium, it's good for our muscles, kind of helps relax things out as a sulfate. It goes in through the sodium channels that were opened up, and it will bond with the barium, the strontium, the aluminum, the chlorofluoro compounds that have built up in our tissues during the day. It'll bond with them and help pull them out. Okay. Now we're all familiar with the Epsom salts working for inflammation. For example, when you sprain an ankle and it's all swollen up, you put it into a hot bath with some Epsom salts, and it'll draw out the inflammatory aspects. It'll help the swelling go down, helps to put the magnesium back in, helps eliminate the wrong acids from it. So this salt exchange bath is a tremendous detoxifier. You want to keep the bath hot, soak for about 15 minutes, then add 1 cup of the clay, either bentonite or zeolite, and soak for another 15 minutes. And again, the bentonite or zeolite clay is going to help draw those toxins out. Also, there will be what's called an ion exchange take place. Some of the positive components of the clay that our tissues need, they'll go back into your system with the magnesium, and you'll have a real correct balance take place within your tissues. Main thing is you'll be eliminating a lot of those toxins that are not necessarily going to be able to be taken care of through the normal processes of elimination, which are perspiration, respiration, urination, defecation. I call them the shuns, okay?
Yeah.
Well, what we're doing here is we're helping all the shuns. And since they're getting hit real hard, you want to periodically do the salt exchange bath.
Makes sense to probably do this, an hour before you go to bed?
Yeah, I would do it an hour before you go to bed. Do it in the evening. It'll help relax you, help get those things out. It lessens the job that the janitors have to do at night in getting you detoxified.
Mm-hmm.
And other beneficial supplements, selenium. Again, selenium is one of Mother Nature's best antioxidants. We can also work with chlorella, which is a excellent source of detoxification, especially with these type of elements, and that is a algae. L-tyrosine, one of those elements that is very necessary for correct brain function. Okay, we call these catecholamine precursors. So the L-tyrosine, and it does get affected by the barium, strontium, aluminum, and the chlorofluoro compounds. Check it out.
A couple of questions here. Selenium.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I had heard, I think it was a television show, that selenium was found in someone who had been poisoned. Is there any truth to that selenium?
Well, you know, I've heard those things too. I think so. You know, as far as I'm aware, selenium works in conjunction with vitamin E and vitamin C. It works with our immune system. It is a great, produces a great antibody response to pathogens. It helps your white blood cells, the phagocyte group, kill bacteria and macrophages. And it's also anti-carcinogenic. In other words, it's one of those that you use as a supplement when you've got a cancer issue. Okay? Now, there are those that say that in excessive amounts, it could be toxic. So again, use the daily recommended dosage.
Sure.
And you'll be real safe there. And I really, I'm not aware, although I've heard that some have been poisoned with selenium. That's pretty difficult to to defend from a hard science perspective. And as long as you stay within recommended dosages, you're only going to receive beneficial effects from it. And selenium used to be one of those natural elements that we used to get through our foods. It's out there. We used to be out there in the dirt, but as these things got displaced with our other mineral values, all of a sudden we found it not to be in our systems the way we need it to be.
Okay.
So,
yeah, one question I had is the chlorella. I get that sometimes confused with chlorophyll. How is it different?
well, the chlorella comes from algae. Okay,
Okay.
it has a chlorophyll compound in it, and that's what gives it the blue-green. You'll find chlorella is listed as a blue-green algae.
Right.
Now you get that color is part of the chlorophyll compound. But chlorella is an algae that works and does have an iodine component to it, by the way. It used to be a real good natural source for iodine. It still is. However, you're probably not going to get enough iodine directly from it.
Okay.
But the chlorella will bond, and it will utilize the iodine, the chlorophyll, and some other elements that are part of that natural algae. And it also is a great oxygen producer. Okay, we need that oxygen, something we're all addicted to. Organic sulfur, and the organic sulfur, and again, daily recommended dosage. You can take it in a powder or just a little pill. Now, the organic sulfur will bond with these heavy metals and will help detoxify your system with the heavy metals. They'll also work as antimicrobial agents. It's why we can put sulfur out into the garden, for example. It'll help kill the bad bugs. You spray it onto the leaves. It's one of Mother Nature's great insecticides. It'll do the same thing within us. Unfortunately, they've gotten away from it, and they now use the barium, strontium, and aluminum instead of the organic sulfur.
I may have missed it. Did you talk about the L-tyrosine?
Yes, I did. The L-tyrosine is the precursor for what we call our catecholamines. This works with the lithium in our brains, give us correct brain modulating function. Also affects our, this is kind of the control panel, part of the control panel for our immune system. And again, this is being depleted from our systems with the chlorofluoro compounds that are part of the heavy metals in the chemtrails. Okay. Glutathione, again, it's a antioxidant. It'll help scavenge free radicals, helps to protect our immune system. Most of the glutathione is not readily assimilable into our system. It's very difficult for us to take in. However, some of the health food stores these days, they carry a real assimilable form of the glutathione, and I would recommend it. The ginkgo biloba. This is real important. Ginkgo will help carry oxygen across the blood-brain barrier. Right? When we get hit with the desiccants that are in the chemtrails, the wrong things get carried across the blood-brain barrier. Our oxygen supply to our brain goes down, and we get kind of that fog feeling in our head. Okay, that's a major complaint I hear from people all the time. So you put some ginkgo biloba, a few drops of it into water. I would recommend the liquid extract. You can get it in a solid pill form. However, the liquid extract is much more slimable. It'll bond with the hydrogen and oxygen in the water, help carry it across your blood-brain barrier, give you some clarity in thinking, and very beneficial for those that have suffered a stroke, which is a result of oxygen deprivation to the brain. Right? Alpha lipoic acid, again, one of those things that we used to get in our food supply. This works in conjunction with the omega group for correct immune system function. Antimicrobial, anti-cancer, okay, it's an anti-carcinogenic, will also help bond with those toxic heavy metals and get them out of our system. So these are these are others beneficial supplements that if you have the opportunity to get them, I would certainly include them into, if not your daily regime, you want to take them on a semi-regular basis.
I noticed that several of the supplements sound like they do pretty much the same thing. Would you say that you kind of have the theory, the more the merrier?
The more the merrier,
Yeah.
absolutely. You
Okay.
know, and what we covered in our initial in our drinks and to our initial food supply part of the protocol, I'm trying to cover those basic things that we need. Okay. Now, when we can add these other beneficial supplements in, it's only going to enhance the activity, the positive activity of what our base supplementation is.
That makes sense.
And again, exposures to avoid, vaccinations, inoculations. There is not one of them that does not have either an aluminum or a mercury adjuvant in them. Okay, so when you're going down the highway and you say and you see the big signs that say vaccinate, we should draw a line through that. It's horrifying to know that this is what is happening to our children. It's also happening to us senior citizens and everybody in between. They're talking about the flu vaccines, etc. These are actually constructed to work with these flus. Okay, they don't help prevent them at all, not at all. And avoid GMO foods, which we've already discussed, and of course fluoridated and chlorinated water. And you also want to avoid foods that, to the best of your knowledge, have been exposed to pesticides. And that means if they're not organic, they've been hit with pesticides. Pesticides and herbicides. That's what the chemtrails are already. So, it's best to work with foods that are organic, have been canned. And by the way, I want to bring up the microwaves that we're being hit with through the cell towers, but also through our cell phones. Right? When you put that up to your ear, what you're doing is you're opening up the blood-brain barrier. It only takes 30 seconds. And then all of the toxicities that are the composition of the chemtrails, if you've got them in your system, you're now opening up your brain to their being able to get through the blood-brain barrier, because that's what the microwave does. And we have signs that are posted around microwave ovens, and of course we wouldn't go in and stick our head in it. But in today's world, they have made sure that 99% of our population is holding that microwave right up to the side of our head, which opens up all those channels across the blood-brain barrier. And we're going to see the debilitating, fatal aspects of this microwaving our brains and allowing these very toxins that we're being sprayed with to cross the blood-brain barrier.
Sure.
It's horrifying.
Yep.
There are some homeopathic remedies for the chemtrails and geoengineering. The homeopathics we'll touch on, and I think we'll make that another presentation. But I would recommend everybody stay tuned for that presentation, because these homeopathics are, in my opinion, critical, vital for us to be able to address the assaults that we're coming up against on a daily basis.
One question that I know people have had is, it does seem like the homeopathic approach is sort of another approach. Should it be done in addition to everything else, or should you try the homeopathic approach, at a separate time? Is there?
No, it should be done with everything else. Okay. What you want to do is, and what I have here is, you don't want to touch the remedy, meaning you just pour it off into a cap. Okay.
Yeah.
Put it under the tongue. See, what we're doing during our regular protocol is we're replacing those elements, those vitamins, those minerals that are getting displaced by the chemtrails. Okay. Vital, necessary that we have those things being supplemented back into us. Then with the inclusion of the homeopathic remedies, this will help to neutralize some of the barium, strontium, and aluminum that is coming in. And so we'll use them in conjunction. And we want to understand that they don't take the place of what we have to supplement with. And that, I want to make that real clear.
Okay.
So we've got to supplement in, and then we can use these homeopathics to help neutralize those heavy metal
That
toxicities.
makes sense. And so what we'll do is we'll have Mike Bayshore come in and
Sure.
we can go over the whole homeopathic aspect of this
You bet.
in
You bet.
detail like we just did. Well, that was very helpful. I appreciate your time today. I know a lot of people had questions about each one of those supplements, so this I think you hit the nail on the head here.
Well, we gotta try to hit the nail on the head. It's also a way to poke them back in the eye.
Yes.
Because we do have to understand how severely we're being challenged out here, and this is a way to fight back and be present for another day.
Mhm.
Thank you very much, McKinney.
Well, thank you, Richard.